Eva and Rodrigo, a young couple from Cantabria, have taken a bold step. They have purchased a shipping container and decided to transform it into their home. The journey ahead is long and filled with unknowns, and neither of them has experience with a project of this kind. While Eva has some background working with containers in other capacities, this particular undertaking is entirely new, a challenge that blends creativity, learning, and a fair amount of trial and error. This will be a guide to anyone considering a similar path. From the very first spark of an idea to the final touches that will make the container a home, the process begins at the beginning, unfolding step by step. It is exciting, it is daunting, and above all, it is real, documenting the learning, the stumbles, and the growth that come with turning a simple container into a place to live. Once the panel is cut and the side reinforcements are in place, the couple starts welding steel tubes to build a solid frame for the extra space. This is where the transformation really begins. Those flat, plain panels slowly take shape, turning into something strong, structured, and full of purpose. Before any construction can start, Eva and Rodrigo turn their focus to the plot of land where the container home will go. The place is completely overrun with weeds and thick vegetation, a wild, uneven canvas just waiting to be tamed. Once the weeds and tangled plants are cleared, the uneven terrain keeps them on their toes, forcing constant adjustments as they work to level and prepare the ground. The next stage begins with digging the foundation holes. The soil here is hard and compact, so breaking through it isn't easy. Luckily, the rain from the past few days has helped a little. The ground is slightly softer than usual, which makes the digging a bit more manageable. Once they double-check that every hole lines up with the planned layout, a layer of concrete is poured into the bottom of each hole, forming the base of the foundation. It creates a solid, stable surface where the concrete chambers will sit. Each unit is leveled and aligned one by one. If even one support sits higher or lower than the others, the container's weight won't be balanced properly. Gravel is carefully poured into each chamber, making sure it settles evenly and fills every gap. A fresh layer of concrete is then poured on top. This locks the gravel in place and creates a solid surface ready to support the container. It helps prevent the weight from pressing too hard on just the edges of the supports, keeping the whole structure stable and safe over time. This method also has a bonus, some flexibility. Since the foundation isn't fully permanent, the container could be moved later if needed, giving them options without having to tear everything apart. Securing the property quickly becomes a top priority for Eva and Rodrigo. They decide to build a fence that's not just practical, but also has a bit of character. Instead of going the usual route, they mix different materials. This keeps costs down, gives it a unique look, and blends with the rustic feel of the land. The fence trench stretches for 18.40 meters. Careful planning marks where each post will go. Stakes are placed about every 2.30 meters, making 8 even intervals. A batch of concrete is mixed and poured into the trench, surrounding each stake. While it's still soft, the tops of the stakes are leveled and straightened. This ensures every post will stand perfectly vertical and aligned. Once the concrete has fully cured, they carefully remove the boards and nails from the formwork. They tap gently to avoid chipping or damaging the surface. This is a particularly rewarding moment. All the hard work pays off, leaving a clean, precise foundation ready for the next step. The posts need sanding and straightening before painting. Usually this is done for lower quality wood or large surfaces. Sanding every post would take too long, so Rodrigo focuses on the corner post. These are acacias, not treated pine. They need sanding, the knots removed, and then a coat of paint. The first step in building a solid foundation for the stone wall is reinforcing the base with steel. This ensures the wall will be strong and stable. A steel mesh is laid along the foundation, and for extra strength, rebar rods are placed every 50 centimeters. They extend upward, tying the concrete base directly into the stones above. At the lower sections, concrete is used, while the upper sections are left slightly loose to allow water to drain. They leave 2 drainage openings at the back. These let water from heavy rain flow straight into the ground. Without them, water could build up behind the wall, creating pressure that might crack or even push the stones out of place. The next step is creating a stamped concrete ramp. First, the surface is prepared. Larger stones are broken up with a sledgehammer, and any high spots are carefully leveled to make a smooth, even base. The ramp ends up about 10 to 12 centimeters thick. This gives it a durable surface that can handle regular use without cracking or wearing down. Concrete pouring begins at the perimeter, focusing on the front edge, the spot that will take the most wear over time. Every placement matters. Reinforcing rods are positioned, and a steel mesh is laid across the surface. It might seem simple, but one mistake here could lead to cracks later, threatening the durability of the entire ramp. After leveling the concrete as evenly as possible, they go over the surface with a float, smoothing it out even more. It's a delicate process. Applying too much pressure or too little can leave the finish uneven. Every pass counts, and getting it just right takes patience, focus, and a steady hand. Next, a special topping layer of colored cement is applied. This adds both color and extra strength to the surface. The powder is spread evenly by hand at about 5 kilograms per square meter. Then, they use the float again to work the topping into the concrete below. This helps moisture rise and fully saturate the powder, creating a smooth, durable finish that's ready for the final touches. Stamping with the molds is a careful process. Even a slight misalignment will show in the final surface. To create a natural varied texture, they use multiple molds with slightly different patterns, so there's no noticeable repetition. The sloped sections of the ramp are the toughest. On the inclines, the molds can slip easily, so extra care is needed to hold them firmly in place while stamping. The molds are left in place overnight. The next day, Eva uses a pressure washer to remove the remaining powder, revealing the full texture and color of the freshly stamped concrete. At this stage, the surface is still delicate. Even a bit of rain could damage it. To protect their work, the team covers the ramp. Eva and Rodrigo decide to make their own outdoor paving slabs, step by step. Their idea is simple: create a path from the entrance of the property all the way to the container house. This way, they can walk comfortably without kicking up dust in the summer or mud during the winter. The slabs need to be strong enough to handle footsteps and transportation without cracking. To make them stronger, they use two types of reinforcement. They mix synthetic fibers directly into the concrete, and they also place a small steel reinforcement grid inside the mold while pouring the concrete. After about 24 hours, the concrete is hard enough to remove the slabs from the molds, since they need around 20 pieces. Making them this way turns out to be much more cost-effective than buying them. After removing the formwork from the ramp, Rodrigo notices a clear height difference between the ramp and the surrounding ground. The next step is to solve that step and create a clean transition. He digs a trench about 20 centimeters wide along the entire front edge of the ramp. It's made slightly deeper so he can pour a base layer of concrete and set the stones firmly in place. The stones are shaped to about 18 centimeters, leaving room for the cement joints between them. What matters most is keeping the top face as straight as possible. Each stone is cut and adjusted to fit. The outer face is aligned carefully, since that's the side that will remain visible. This section is where the two-leaf gate will be installed. Eva's father and Rodrigo dig a trench about 40 centimeters wide. In this area, much bigger stones will be placed to form the base for the gate. That's why the trench is made wider. Once the stones are set, they prepare a mix of sieved sand and cement. This mixture is used to fill the gaps and cracks between the stones, as well as the joint between the stones and the stamped concrete ramp, locking everything together and giving the edge a clean, solid finish. They still need to finish the side spaces between the ramp and the wall that weren't filled with stamped concrete. A small trench is also dug along the edge to reinforce the area. This makes sure that if a car drives over it, or someone steps on a stone, it won't easily move. The stamping process is tricky, especially when it comes to matching the existing pattern, but patience and careful work pay off. The next day, a protective varnish is applied. This layer shields the surface from erosion, dirt, rain, and frost, helping it stay strong and looking good for years to come. The front section of the container will feature a large glass window with a sliding door for access. To prepare, they cut the steel posts for the frame and weld the joints completely, creating a solid rectangle that will hold the window securely. They also add protective metal flanges around the frame. These 6 by 60 centimeter plates act like a small roof over the window, keeping rain from hitting the glass directly. At the same time, they help the window fit neatly and snugly into the frame. The couple use a two-part system, a primer for adhesion and a polyurethane top coat for long-lasting protection. The primer is rich in zinc and high in solids, creating a thick, durable layer that bonds tightly to the metal. The top coat is a two-component polyurethane, highly resistant to UV, weather, and temperature changes. After the primer dries, they carefully apply silicone to all joints that weren't fully welded. Any missed spot could allow water to seep in, potentially causing rust or structural damage over time. Next comes the polyurethane paint. This two-component system must be mixed with a catalyst before application. A small mistake here, too much or too little catalyst, could ruin the finish, leaving the metal unprotected. Eva and Rodrigo decide to plant a cypress hedge, specifically the Leylandii variety, around the property. The perimeter fencing is already in place, defining the space and adding some privacy. A key part of this setup is creating a windbreak, and the hedge will serve both as a barrier against the wind and as a natural screen for privacy. Among the many ways to create a windbreak, planting a perimeter hedge is one of the simplest and most cost-effective. All it takes is planting the trees and letting them grow. In a few years, the hedge will become dense enough to protect the property. For this project, they choose Leylandii cypress trees. These trees grow quickly, up to 50 centimeters per year in the right climate, and are very resilient. They can handle heavy rain, drought, and most other weather conditions, making them low maintenance and long-lasting. For the container home roof, they decide to use sandwich panels. Usually it is made of two main materials, a laminated sheet on each side and an insulating material in between. This three-layer combination provides both thermal and acoustic insulation, keeping the interior comfortable and quiet. The panels are easy to install, which makes the process faster and simpler. They choose a 60mm thick panel, providing excellent thermal and acoustic insulation. They go with a slate panel. It closely imitates natural tiles, has a variety of textures, and comes in a modern anthracite color, giving the container a sleek, stylish look. Now, the couple is installing an exterior facade that combines dry construction with traditional methods. The goal is to create a finish that is economical, quick to install, and offers good insulation and water resistance. For the metalwork, channels are placed at the top and bottom to act as guides. Vertical studs are cut to size and inserted. The studs at the ends are fixed to the structure, while the ones in the middle are left free to allow for movement. A waterproof membrane is added, overlapped by at least 20 centimeters both vertically and horizontally. Next, the panels are installed. Made of fiberglass and plaster, they are designed to resist weather and moisture. The panels can be placed vertically or horizontally, depending on the height, and to minimize the number of joints. The final mortar finish and any additional exterior treatments will be applied later. This system is valued for being economical, fast, and durable, providing both strong water resistance and good insulation. The next task is placing boards on the floor in some empty and potentially dangerous areas to prevent accidents while moving around the space. To make them more stable, leftover metal profiles from the facade are repurposed to create a small supporting frame. The depth is adjusted so the boards will sit perfectly once installed. Excess waterproof membrane from the facade installation is cut and attached with silicone to the metal frame, improving water resistance at the bottom. The boards they use are OSB, moderately moisture resistant, and suitable for temporary outdoor use. This preparation ensures that everything sits properly, with no gaps or weak spots, and the floor is now ready for the next steps. Additional layers can be added later as the build progresses. The wall finish uses a single-layer mortar system. The product is a base mortar that only needs to be mixed with water before application. The mixture should be fluid enough to spread easily, since the first coat only needs to be about 3 millimeters thick. Reinforcement mesh strips are also added at critical points, especially around the corners. These are sensitive areas where cracks are more likely to appear. By embedding the mesh into the mortar, the facade gains much better resistance to movement and weather stress. Once this step is completed, the facade will be ready for the final mortar coat that will cover the entire surface and complete the exterior finish. Eva and Rodrigo choose a cost-effective solution for the fence. The painted brackets are attached to the starting post. The same setup is installed at the other end of the fence section, allowing the mesh to be stretched securely between the two posts. When installing chain link mesh, any post where the direction changes needs extra reinforcement. Diagonal braces are added to form a triangular support with the post. Their job is to handle the strong tension created when the fence wires are tightened. For the entrance, they decide to install metal gates, designed slightly differently to complement the stone wall and make the entry look more attractive. The gates are 1 meter high and very rigid. Because the spacing of the posts didn't match the metal mesh panels exactly, they have to cut the mesh to size. The key is to leave half of the mesh on one post so that the next panel aligns perfectly. After trimming the posts to the right height, the fence feels solid and well built. With the entrance fence now complete, it provides security while also enhancing the property's appearance. The metal mesh and sturdy posts work together to complement the stone wall. They set out to make unique gates from chestnut wood sourced from their own land in Cantabria. The goal was to use natural chestnut boards, carefully dried and prepared by hand. There are 2 gates, a pedestrian gate and a double-leaf vehicle gate. The process began about 6 months ago, in winter, the ideal time to cut chestnut trees. They brought the logs down from the forest and started preparing them for drying. First, the logs were squared, making all faces parallel and perpendicular. This step is crucial for later cutting the boards. The boards were then left to dry slowly. Some cracking at the ends was expected, so any damaged portions were trimmed off, keeping only the best wood. Accurate measurements and precise squaring were essential to ensure the boards would fit perfectly when the gates were finally assembled. With the help of Eva's father, they install the metal frame of the gate on the entrance wall. Next, it's time to mount the boards. Rodrigo marks and drills holes for screws on each board. For added versatility, they embed metal threaded inserts into the wood so the boards can be removed and reinstalled without causing any damage. The boards are then mounted on a support sheet welded to the frame to anchor them securely. Slots are cut into the boards to hide the attachment points, giving the gates a clean, floating appearance. For painting, their first attempt was a water-based wood stain. However, the boards stayed wet for several weeks and never fully dried. In the end, they switched to a solvent-based varnish, which worked perfectly, fast-drying, durable, and giving a smooth finish. The hinges and lock are chosen to match the style of the gates. They go with a cylinder lock that comes with 5 keys and is very affordable. To prevent the gate from swinging open in the wind, one of the 2 leaves is secured to the ground with a pin. The decision is made to build an additional floor. With this extension, they aim to gain a significant amount of extra space in the container layout. With the help of his brother, Rodrigo starts by building the metal framework for the new floor. Using 50 by 50 millimeter steel tubes with a 3 millimeter wall thickness, the second floor will not cover the entire container footprint, since they don't need that much space. This partial layout also looks more aesthetically pleasing. They weld 2 corners directly to the original container beams. Later, when the roof is cut, these corners will be reinforced with a sturdy brace. These connections are reinforced with horizontal beams, ensuring that the additional floor is fully integrated with the original container structure. The careful planning and precise welding set the stage for a safe, stable, and visually balanced expansion. Regarding height, the second floor cannot exceed Spanish road regulations, which limit the total to 4.50 meters. For this reason, the container height is capped at 3.7 meters, allowing for future transportation without going over legal limits. To secure the entire perimeter, the family decides to install a video surveillance system. Since there is no electricity on the property yet, they need a system that can operate independently. They choose a fully autonomous model with an internal battery and a small solar panel, providing complete self-sufficiency. Rodrigo installs a waterproof membrane that also serves as a vapor barrier. It must be overlapped in the direction of the slope, so water cannot seep between the joints. A small excess is left on the facade side to create a smooth transition between the roof and the wall. The membrane is stretched across 3 sections, lower, middle, and upper, always layering so the higher section overlaps the lower. The sandwich panels are designed with overlapping joints that create a tight seal between sections, preventing water infiltration and improving wind resistance. Because of this modular design, construction time can be significantly reduced while still achieving a high-quality result. One of the main advantages of sandwich panels is their excellent insulation capacity. The internal core significantly reduces heat transfer, helping maintain comfortable indoor temperatures while lowering energy consumption for heating or cooling. At the same time, the metal outer sheets protect the insulation from moisture, weather, and mechanical damage. Many panels are also manufactured with protective coatings that improve corrosion resistance and extend the lifespan of the roof. Up to now, the container roof has been very useful as a working platform. It's allowed them to move safely at height and store materials. But now comes a big step. It's time to cut it. There's a real risk here. One wrong move could damage the structure, or worse, make the situation unsafe. The next day it's raining, and the container roof has already been cut. Even so, they can keep working thanks to the newly installed roof above. They reinforce the cut area by welding beams to the container structure, stabilizing everything after the opening. To finish the second floor, the brothers then move on to installing the facade. Just like with the front extension, they use the same material to keep everything consistent. It's an innovative dry construction system that combines plasterboard with fiberglass, making it suitable for exterior use. This solution is not only practical, but also quick to install, helping them move the project forward efficiently. Windows are one of those elements you only install once, so the family decides to invest a good part of their budget in them. It needs to be durable, solid, and built to a high standard. This one is custom made to fit the exact dimensions of the opening. To make installation easier, and since access from the roof is limited, they prepare wooden guides fixed with clamps to the metal frame. Once the window is positioned and screwed in place, the gaps between the frame and the structure are sealed using a special polyurethane foam designed for windows. The lower window is treated the same way. This final step ensures that no moisture, air, or water can get inside. Rodrigo starts by preparing the structure that will support the terrace. He clears the area, then marks the layout and stretches strings along the perimeter to keep everything perfectly aligned and level. It's heavy work, but doing it in winter helps, as the ground is moist and easier to dig. Once the excavation is ready and the levels are defined, they, along with Eva's father, start mixing concrete and laying the blocks that will form the base walls. To save time, the blocks are set directly into the fresh concrete. The goal is to raise the entire surface to the same level as the container house floor, creating continuity and a greater sense of space. The terrace will have an L shape covering two main areas. The base walls are complete, and Rodrigo installs the joists that will support the decking boards. Even though the joists are rated for outdoor use, they can still deteriorate over time due to moisture. To prevent this, he covers them with plastic sheeting, stapled in place. This inexpensive solution protects the wood by preventing direct contact with water. When it comes to placing the decking boards, the first row is the most important, as all subsequent rows will follow its alignment. He uses a guide string placed parallel to the container to ensure perfect positioning and double check with a laser level. Special clips fit into grooves in the boards and are screwed into the joists, creating a clean, hidden fixing system. It's important to position the clips tightly to maintain consistent spacing between boards. To finish, they alternate full and half boards to create a staggered pattern that looks both professional and visually appealing. After completing the terrace, a small planter is built to cover the visible block walls and bring greenery into the space. The area is filled with soil, with plans to plant grass later. Steps and decorative plants are added, turning the terrace into a welcoming and attractive outdoor space. Finally, it's time to bring water to the property. The hose here connects to the municipal water supply. Before running it from the connection box to the container, Rodrigo plans to build a small distribution box with taps to manage the different water circuits across the property. Next comes the hard work, digging a trench from the connection box, across the stamped concrete, all the way to the container. The soil is dry and hard after summer, so it takes patience and effort. Since they also plan to plant leyland cypresses in this area, the trench is kept close to the stones to leave enough space for the roots. A special box is installed at the excavated spot where the exterior water supply will connect to the interior. The ground level is made flush with the cover to prevent dirt or leaves from accumulating. The water meter will be installed outside, behind the fence foundation, so municipal technicians can easily check consumption. Since leyland cypresses are already planted around the property, the family has had problems with unwanted weeds in the past. To keep them away, extra effort is needed. For the entrance area, they added a weed barrier to prevent any unwanted plants from growing. The leyland cypresses are planted about 70 centimeters apart, with the soil carefully prepared to encourage healthy growth. Small trees benefit from loose soil and added compost to develop strong roots. The final touch is covering the weed barrier with white stones. Almost 20 bags of stones bought from a garden center are used to properly cover the area. Rodrigo doesn't like the idea of leaving the black hose exposed, so he decides to build a small wooden cover using leftover wood from the security camera project. This hides the hose, allows the faucet to be attached neatly, and makes the installation look much cleaner. Spring has arrived, and with it comes one challenge for anyone with a garden. The grass grows non-stop. Here in Cantabria, where rain and mild weather make it grow fast, skipping even a week can leave the lawn out of control. To keep up, the family bought a robotic lawnmower, an addition that truly changes their life. Looking back at the entire project, it's incredible to see how far the family has come. It's proof that with persistence, planning, and a little imagination, even the most ambitious ideas can take shape. And for them, the reward is the journey itself, watching their dream come to life. If this project inspired you, be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell to stay updated, give this video a thumbs up, and let us know in the comments which part was your favorite.